Well, let me give you a brief update as to our ministry relaunch. So this has been a journey that we've been on since May, thinking about how are we going to re-engage in life together. And in the first phase, we opened up midweek gatherings. And so we opened up the door for some community groups, some outdoor activities, slow pitch, gathering together. And we did that. And then we worked on phase 2, which was opening up our Sunday services, which are clearly it's been moving forward. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you of your support. This is not something you learn in seminary. This is not something that any of us have any experience in. But I want to thank you as a church of how gracious you've been, how willing you've been to follow the guidelines, and it has allowed us to move forward. And so we are now at a point where, as we've said a few weeks ago, every week we're gathering together. Don't expect this to stop. We're gathering together on Sunday mornings. But then we started talking about dropping some nuggets about what phase 3 of our relaunch would be. And this would be expanding our Sunday ministries. So the things that happen at 9:30 and the things that happen at 10:45, like Street 252 and Toddler Room and Refresh. And then also expanding our midweek gatherings. And we're praying about how are we going to do this? How are we called to do this at this time? Well, this was one of the main conversations we had at the last council meeting, and we came to a full accord at the ministry council that at this time that we've decided to postpone phase 3 of our ministry relaunch. Now, why have we done this? Well, 3 main considerations. One is COVID considerations. We still have some things to figure out of how can we do certain ministries, particularly our kids ministry, how can we do that in a safe way? There's also some anxiety about back to school. This last week, schools did stagger entry, and our kids started going back to school. And there's some anxiety with that, but there's also the difficulty of starting back in school and introducing increasing church activities. And so there's a little bit of anxiety there. But the biggest reason, and they're not listed in order of importance at all, but the biggest reason is that we see this as an opportunity for us to evaluate what is God calling us to do in this season as a church. And so before we add anything back to our church calendar, we want to ask ourselves, what is God calling Zion to as we return from COVID? Why and how might God be calling us to change in this season, or to continue in the direction as we have in the past? And so before we add anything back to our ministry calendar, we want to ask why? Why this ministry? And how? How are we called to do it in this season? Why are we doing this ministry, and how do we want to do it? And so this is really a unique opportunity that we have as a church to set us on the trajectory of where we'll be in 5 to 10 years and beyond. And when we talked about this, and when we prayed, and then when we ultimately voted, I almost cried and those that know me, I'm not a very emotional guy at all, but there was a sense of loss of this idea of things are still not back yet. We're not ready to move forward, and knowing how hard this decision is for particularly families of re-engaging with our services. But now I find myself moving more and more into the area of excitement, of what this could mean for our church as we endeavor on such a journey. So the practical question is then, what does the fall look like? If we're not looking to jump into phase 3 yet for the foreseeable future, what are we doing? Well, these are somewhat listed in order of importance. The most important thing that we're doing is entering a season of prayer, reflection, study, and discernment. We want to relearn and re-hold in our hearts the basics of what God has called us to. And so we want to invite all of you, all of Zion, to join in this process, to pour into your Bibles and look for what God has called the church to do, to pray for our ministry council as we ask some hard questions, and then to also use your imagination of what the future could look like, and to let us know. We're also looking to add a couple options, expanding Sunday mornings just a little bit to help bridge this gap. And so a couple things that I was working on this week, I moved the stuff from the mother's room upstairs, and we've moved it into the fishermans.net room. And so we've set up a little mother's room that's going to be open for next Sunday, so that particularly for nursing mothers, you have that space, not in the foyer that you can go to. And we're also looking to add a flex spot in the Thou Art studio for parents. You can take your kids there. It's going to be kind of playground rules. It's going to be used at your own discretion, at your own risk, but there'll be that extra space trying to support. And then the Teesons, they've been putting together these little welcome bags for kids with a couple activities, and I'm very grateful for your work in that. We're also looking to really pour into and emphasize our community group ministry. Community groups are a small group model that brings us together not on your stage of life, but where you live in the city. And we're looking to set up our church as a community group hub, that we can have several community groups meeting here at the church on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. And we're working to get this going, and I'm looking at October as the true start of when this might get going. And so, if you're interested in participating in a community group, there's going to be a link on the screen here in a minute. You can sign up through there. You can reach out to the church office, and we would love to get you connected and give you more information. And then also, as we walk this journey, as we're ready to start ministries, we will definitely start bringing those into action. So this was a very quick survey. I'm sure many of you have questions, and if you don't have questions now, you probably will in the days to come. So please reach out to Pastor Nick, to myself, or any other member of the ministry council, and we'll be happy to talk more with you about this and what our process is like. So to summarize, we're not ready to go into phase 3 yet, but we eagerly anticipate that day when our church is back in our regular rhythm, when the restrictions are removed, and the only bounds on us is what God would have for us, and not COVID health precautions or anything like that. So that's it for today. And again, if you have questions, please reach out, and I'd love to talk more. So thanks, Zion.